You asked for it, so here it is. Front swivels on the Land Rover. I thought I'd pop this video in this weekend while we're sort of been flat out on the BV as it was all ready, edited and ready to go. And then on Tuesday you'll see us machine and put a load of bearings and stuff in the BV and get it ready to go again. It is way worse than we thought. But she's in the right place. There'll be a lot of lathe work you'll see. Pressing bearings in, rebuilding a hydraulic ram that has had a fairly large smack and has burred the bottom of the rod over. But we'll get that on the lathe and machine that up as well. Gonna be a good video. But swivel hubs on the Land Rovers today. I've taken out putting the hub and bearings and stuff on because you see all that when we did the last video when we did the rear hub. That's exactly the same. So I've sort of kept it so you haven't got to see the same thing twice. But hopefully you enjoy it. Right, so swivels. This is the first part in the rebuilding the front. Now I'm going to be a little honest with you. These swivels aren't fantastic. They've got a little bit of pitting. And if that was a customer's vehicle, I would replace them. But I run preload grease in these. And to be honest with you, you could take the seal out and it still wouldn't leak. But it does flow quite nicely when it's got a little bit of warmth in it after running for a while. Pretty good stuff. It's not the cheapest. It's better than swivel grease. So the odd mark and a little bit of pitting isn't really much of an issue. And there's a lot of problems with remade swivels breaking and snapping off. So why it's only got a slight bit of pitting, we're probably going to, well, we are going to keep them and keep the originals. That's my 5p's worth, really. I'm no stranger to swivels. I've done no end of these, and I've seen a lot worse not leak. So our top bit is a bush. So if I build it this way, you'll see. So axle was bolted this side. And then not this hub because it hasn't been cleaned yet, but effectively you end up with a hub and then that's how your steering works. And that is done on a tapered ball bearing at the bottom and then a pin, tapered ball bearing at the bottom. This is a knackered one, we've got a new one we're going to fit, but that would be at the bottom. Then we've got a pin and a bush that goes in up here. Now what you don't want is any play and rock in the kingpin. So you then shim them up, and we'll show you how to shim them up and how to do them correctly. But first things first, Josh, we have to fit the new bush in the top.
Now you need to do it there, because that's a different job.
There's home. Yeah. Right, step one, complete. Now, in the box, in the pile, Josh, we should have
$606,666.
Yep. Right, if we could then
When does the frost washer go in?
last.
Okay.
We'll knock him in. I think that is home. Yeah, I'd say that. That is home. So, that is the new bearing race fitted and the new bush. Now we're over to the Land Rover. Next job now is, I'm a bit in the dark, but gasket seal up here, so a bit of Hylamar on there. Say again?
Oh, I was going to put an extension lead into the extension lead so I can then power the extension driver. You've already done that.
Yep. Right. Now we're ready for a gasket. So what we do have to remember, not to forget, is our seal goes on. And then the seal retaining plate also then goes on. And we just leave them dangling out the way for a minute.
That's the top I'm holding.
Yeah. Again, nice new bit of gasket paper. And then this is just a bit of an idiot to fit. You screw that if I hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that started. You got another one?
Loctite. Now, since we're not a massive fan of wheels falling off, it wouldn't be a lot of fun, would it, Josh? Well, that'd be an adventure.
Interesting.
What a title to the video and thumbnail that'd be.
Our wheel fell off on the M1.
Yeah. You give it the old Loctite. So there's the first Loctited one.
Yeah. That's to wash it. Okay.
Right then, so we're now going to tighten these up and then we'll join you back when we start putting the hub on. Right, so now that swivel is all bolted back up, it's time to put the bottom pin in. So touch a Hylamar around the holes. And then we've got the pin that goes in. So Josh is now going to pack the bearing full of grease. And again, a touch of Loctite, because you don't really want these coming undone. So that's only Loctite 243, so there's nothing anti-vibration more than anything. There's no real holding power to it. Yeah, they're only small bolts, so if you put anything too strong in there, obviously they're going to break as you go to undo them again in the future. I mean, don't get me wrong, if that's the ex-girlfriend's car, you probably use a bit of 648. Right, while Josh is then just packing that bearing full of grease, what we'll do, before we get it out, so this is grease filled as I said, I'm going to use preload grease. So we should just make sure that the fill port comes out. And that it does. We'll just treat future us to a little bit of copper slip there. Too tight because it's going to come off once it's all built back up. So are you there ready for a bearing?
I've now got a greasy bearing.
Right, so here goes on that spindle there. Just push straight on. He's on. Just make sure he's turned without hitting the housing. No, he's good. Right, so a couple more bits, we'll show you them, and then we're ready to put it back on, and then we start shimming it up. So now we've got to fit this to the Land Rover, and it swivels, and we talked about shimming. So what I've done is I've just got one of every size shim currently, ready to fit, and then we bolt it down, and then that sets the preload up, and then hopefully we want 1.5 kilos of force pulling on the steering arm with a spring balance. That's what we're going for. So this pin goes down there, and that goes on the bush that you saw us hitting, and on the bottom of the pin we get a little needle bearing, and then a washer side of him. So, trial fit, let's go. So we've got our swivel bearing, top one. What we'll do is we've got our bottom washer, we're going to pop him in there first.
Why'd you put the tin of grease there?
Where is the swivel?
Down here.
Okay.
That is that. Then we've got the, just apply some grease to the top washer. So now our next job is going to be, this is the dirtiest rag I could find, swivel hub itself. So he will sit like that, and then With our shims pre-ready to go. We're gonna suck it if it's 50 or 17. I've got a 17 spanner actually. 17 socket. Worst bit it can be on these is just line up all the shims. So you can see at the minute, that's because we're not So we'll have two types of readings. The first we don't care about, and that is the weight it takes to pull or overcome itself. We care about what it's actually taking to move it once it starts moving. I think that is 2. Right, so that's too much. So that was about 2 kilo. We're looking for 1.5. So I would go for a medium shim, Josh. So we've added a bigger shim now. What's really easy to do with this is to crease the seal, and then you're all the way back to square one again. That feels good. Whatever we just added,
Yeah.
I want half of it. We were at 2, we're now at 1. Or I could just take one of the small ones out.
Yeah, take the small one out.
is an out. We're pretty sure now that on a steady pull the whole way around, we are 1.5. So that is our kingpins all now shimmed up correctly and ready to go. CV shaft. Power comes up our axle, but our wheel needs to turn. So this one's gone tight. Righto. So we've just put it for the parts washer. The grease is missing, but she was a little bit notchy. A little bit not too good. So as the axle tell you what we'll do, we're going to strip this down and I'll show you how it works once it's back together. So, shaft pulls out the middle. Then what we've got, Josh, is we've got all of these balls. So they're a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, really. If you get for the soft alley punch. That didn't go far enough. What we've got to do is take all of these balls out. It's a bit fiddly, particularly when they're not particularly greasy. Next ball out. Then we go this way. Out comes that ball. This ball then comes out, and then we need to straighten these two up. And then we've got these notches around the outside, so we line that notch up there, we can then pick it out. Same with this, turn that round till that goes in there. And then these come out. We'll have a look for wear. I think she's just probably notchy with grit and stuff. It doesn't look too bad. So let's get it in the cleaning tank and we'll join you back. It's a bit like a spline shaft. The CV joint has splines. But rather than driving on the hub itself, because it will spin in here, actually drives on ball bearings. Ball bearings in between. What that does is allow them to pivot. Which I think is quite clever. And unlike a huge universal joint drive shafts, so like your big lorries and stuff, the tighter you turn, the more snatchy they can get. And then it obviously comes back through the steering wheel, for like car parks and slow speeds, sharp corners. Whereas the CV joint won't do that. So our first job is to pack it full of grease. Now, I could use CV grease for this. But because this is running on our swivel housing and we're going to use triple O EP grease, CV grease won't mix with that very well. Whereas this will. So we'll use it for assembly, and then once she's got a bit of heat in there and been on the road, it'll mix up that EP triple O and no adverse effects. That's what we're going for. So, let's get greasy, Josh. If you in charge of balls, I could give them to you and you could put them down somewhere in your convenient space. So, cage back together. So put them together, turn them so they're 90 apart, and then there's a right or wrong way. We've got a shoulder this side and then a ramp this side to help get the snap ring in. So we turn it that way. Grease on the bottom again. So 2 balls, please.
Should be 9 on the bench.
There is indeed.
Oh, it didn't work.
So far, no. Another ball? No, I do.
I'll let you get it.
This one and this one. So you got 2 left? 2 left? Yep. Last one. Right, that is all the balls back in. Now we need a shaft, which is here. First, I just want to see. I know the shaft's got EP grease in it, but beautiful. That is beautiful. So we're going to clean this shaft down and we'll come back to you. So now we've got the shaft and we've got our new snap ring. What? Collar? Yeah, we do want a collar. Have a dirty collar. Alright, so now we get a collar over here. The snap ring. Which looks about as much fun as it is to fit. Yep. Yeah. So, oh, I did that tight. Now you can see that it doesn't matter which angle, it still turns. So, we'll fit it. So our next job now is to put our shaft in. And you see the shaft rotates, it's got a CV joint. And that allows obviously the wheels to turn but still take drive. Right, that's the shaft now in. So as per normal, we shall treat the bolts with some Loctite.
I couldn't see one.
I'll do them. Like that then. And then, where have I put that bit? We then get the plate here. Right, now we'll want a torque wrench.
It's me sat on the wheel now. Hub is fitted. Spins lovely. And the thing that makes the fronts and the rears different with the CV joint is the end plate is its own piece. So we've got some nice shiny ones.
So the originals have this style, and then they have a rubber boot that goes over here, which is utterly useless, really. Because in all manufactured ones, their boot is hard. Whereas the one that Josh is now fitting has a screw-on thread with an O-ring.
I say we have to thank Clive for the Ilamar.
Oh, he was a legend.
Yeah. Do I have the bolts for this?
You can indeed, Josh, if you grab them. There are 5 bolts, 2.5 inches long of the breakless box. And a bone edge.
And a socket would be ideal.
17 mil.
If I'll give you these, I'll grab you a socket. You got to drive.
And Heidemer. Not Heidemer, Loctite.
Loctite.
No? Oh no, these get copper slipped. So these bolts are prone to corroding. Oh, gone for the plenty of copper grease approach. Hopefully we don't see them enough that we give them names, but just in case. So then done up. Need to pull the shaft out as far as I can get it, and there's a groove in there for a circlip.
You've made it to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you're still watching at this point, if you're not following us, hit the old subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. It really does help small channels like us out and help us grow and expand to a larger audience. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.